Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to set 3. This set is space themed. In this video we'll be talking about the differences in set 3, especially as they compare to set 2, as well as what you should expect new from this set, and the major difference which are the actual galaxies, as well as ending with 4 different compositions that you can kind of work on to improve or to start your gameplay. First of all, there's a lot of buffs to 3-star 2 and 3 cost minions, which means that there are more reliable carries now. A big problem in set 2 was that you really only had a couple small amount of carries like Azir, and maybe like Twitch or Ashe, but there weren't the possibility of having multiple carries. Now, with 6 Sorcerers back, you can make any kind of powerful unit a carry, as well as on top of that, the buff to 3-starring certain units means that you can spend more time at levels 5, 6, and 7 to roll down for 3 stars in certain compositions. Secondly, all units scale from AP now. So before there were physical damage units like Yasuo who really only wanted to buy like IE, BT, stuff like that. But let's say you couldn't really run the comp even if you rolled the units because you had a lot of large rods. Now you can just stack AP on the units and they'll scale off AP as well. A good example is Yasuo and Shaco both scale well with AP. Yasuo, I think, with 6 Sorcerer and Death Caps can get to 20 extra autos with his ultimate, and Shaco increases his crit percentage based on the AP that you have. The third and final thing are the galaxies themselves. Note, these will not be in the initial patch, but will appear in the patch 2 weeks after launch. This is so that you can normalize and familiarize yourself with the normal set before you get into these galaxies. First of all, if you don't know if there's a galaxy in your game, all you need to do is check the top left area right next to your stage to see if there's an icon there. You can hover over it and check to see if there's a galaxy or not. Nico first, having 2 Nikos at the start of the game. Usually the strategy in this is to go for an early 4 cost or 5 cost and slam 2 Nikos on it to get a huge power spike to transition your comp to the end of the game. Lilac Nebula is all 4 costs. This is a really scary one. Do not get baited by damage threats in this galaxy, because damage threats often need 2-starring for their health and their base AD and their base damage to be high enough to be relevant. A lot of times the carries are the baits and you want actual frontline like Cho'Gath, Wukong, so you can get a more effective comp in the mid game to transition well into the late game. Trade Sector is a free reroll every round. I've never played on this galaxy, and the next 3 galaxies no one's played on either, but my theory is that on this galaxy, pushing levels is really good. Because you get 1 free roll at a higher level, it may be worth to throw away a lot of econ just so you could push levels to be able to get those chase 4 costs or multiple 3 costs or multiple early 5 costs that you couldn't before. Super Dense Galaxy is a free fawn at level 5, which means you have a huge bracket at 5. For me, this means that you can complete comps at level 7 because most comps stabilize around level 7 or 8. This means that going for 3-star units that are 2 and 3 costs are very viable and exceptionally good here. Not So Little Legends is the last galaxy, and it means you start with more health and are larger. What this means to me is that you can econ more aggressively. Before, you can lose like 50 life before you have to be worried about your relative board state. Now, assuming you get much more health, you can econ to like levels 8 or even 9 a lot safer, and I think this definitely a strat to go for if you're on this galaxy. Next, let's move on to compositions. Before we talk about actual compositions, let's first break down the front line in most of the compositions that you're going to use. A lot of these compositions, their front line can be interchangeable, and so the most important thing is to get any front line that you roll into first, and then figure out how you can transition that comp into the more optimal ones. The 4 front lines in the game are Vanguard, Brawlers, Mech, and Protectors. These front lines are fairly interchangeable, and there's certain compositions are going to want 1 type of frontline or 2 types of frontline over the others. The first composition I'm going to talk about is 6 Sorcerers, and this is a comp that highly desires tiers. Tiers are your saving grace in this composition and allow your carries to carry extremely hard. The main carry in this composition is either Vel'Koz or it's Syndra or Ahri. How this works is if you can get a 2-star or 3-star Syndra or Ahri, they are extremely powerful and can outcarry a 2-star Vel'Koz with items. Additionally, because you get 3-star Guardian in this synergy, because you run Zoe, Syndra, and Ahri, what happens is that they're able to kind of funnel mana to each other non-stop and get really multiple casts off in the same game. Unfortunately, both of these carries need stuff like Seraphs, to be able to function well. So tiers are your main item that you want in this composition. The next comp I'm going to talk about is the 4 Vanguard comp. It's very flexible. Jace in this composition is the main carry alongside Mordekaiser, and you're able to kind of do a lot with Jace. Understand that when you're running a 4 Vanguard composition, you're given so much free armor, 250, 200 plus armor on every single Vanguard, that the stuff you're really only going to be dying to is if they either have a Last Whisper or if they have magic damage. So Dragon's Claw is incredibly strong on this composition, and it's one of the main defensive items that you go to make sure your frontline never dies. You can either go 4 Mystics, which is very popular. It's really strong. The Sorcerer comps does a lot of great stuff, but it's very hard to find the Lulu, so it's very difficult to do if you don't hit that. Alternatively, you can go 4 Space Pirates. You have your main carry with Jace as well as Gangplank, and you get a lot of additional items. Alternatively, you can either go Snipers or Blasters. With Snipers, you're able to get stuff like Chrono, as well as potentially Darkstar with Jhin. And Blasters, you're able to kind of run a very strong Jinx MF kind of shell, as well as get Chrono in there as well. This is a comp for players who want to annoy their enemy team with ultra tanky units, and comp that I highly recommend to start with and kind of work into whatever comp you find. The next composition I'm going to talk about is 4 Infiltrators. Infiltrators are your assassins. The biggest difference in this set compared to the first 2 is that Infiltrators jump directly to the back, as opposed to jumping to the farthest available hex on the opposite side. So think of it this way: instead of your assassin jumping diagonal like this, either over here or over here, instead you're having them jump in a straight line. It makes positioning a little bit different, and something you have to keep in mind when you're playing this set. The main carries in this composition are your Shaco, your Kai'Sa, as well as your Echo. Echo is really hard to find, so mainly your most consistent carry is Shaco, unless you get a Protector Spatula, which makes Kai'Sa your main carry. If you have a 3-star Shaco or a very strong Shaco, you can consider pivoting into Darkstar from this position, especially if you have a Protector frontline with Jarvan, or even if you have maybe a Vanguard frontline with Mordekaiser. Adding one more Mystic, which is one more Darkstar, which is usually the Mystic, the Karma, to tag into your carry, as well as adding a Mystic the level after, allows you for very strong pivoting from that position. And this is usually a comp that wins off 3-starring the carry. So if you 3-star the Kai'Sa, 3-star any of the mech units, or 3-star the Shaco, that's usually what wins you the game. It's not a comp that typically wins off 2-starring units. The last and final composition I'm going to talk to you about is the most straightforward composition, is 6 Cybernetics. You know it's the most straightforward because you know every single unit in this composition before the game starts. So it's all 6 Cybernetic units. Afterwards, you get 1 Blade Master because there's 2 Blade Masters already in Cybernetics, and Aurelia and Echo are your main carries. So you add 1 frontline Blade Master, which is Shen. You don't want to go for a backline Blade Master like Kale, because you don't usually have enough items to spread around on Cybernetics. The thing about Cybernetic and the synergy is the fact that it is a synergy that you have to spread a lot of your item components like all around all your items. Since there's 6 different items, that means you have 4 units that you'll have single items on for the most part, and your Echo and your Aurelia will be having completed items. But since you're spreading so many items across your board, it means that you won't have as many items on one carry as you do with other compositions. And afterwards, the last unit is Thresh for Chrono and Mana Reaver. You could really run any Chrono unit. The Mana Reaver doesn't super matter, but it's ideally some Chrono unit is what you slot in here. Your main carries, like I said before, are Aurelia and Echo. So in this situation, what does Aurelia want? I've seen Aurelia do really well with stuff like IE, BT, Seraphs, and QSS. Usually I see IE, QSS the most, and then the third item is kind of up to you. GA works really well. Last Whisper works because it's a lot of physical damage in the composition outside of Echo, and so it's difficult to kind of go through front lines like Vanguard without it. BT is great because she's able to life steal off that. Seraphs is great because she has 30 mana, but don't get baited by Seraphs, because sure, she can ulti a lot of times, but she automatically gets a free ulti if she kills with her ulti. So damage items are typically better than Seraphs. For Echo, in this composition, I would say 6 Cybernetics is easy to get top 4 with, but difficult to first place without Echo 2. Echo 2 with items. So if you do get the Echo 2, your optimal items are typically, what I like is GA and 2 Death Caps. This allows you to kind of hit everyone on the board for 750-ish damage, He's good against almost every single composition, and he can clean up comps left and right. The GA is to make sure that he's able to get consistent ultis off, which sometimes he lacks because he has a little bit of a delay on his ultimate. And the comp itself is, I would say, very reliable at being able to place highly, and something that you could easily plan for because you know every unit in the composition. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I meant for this video to be kind of short, but I think every time I say that, it's not. I think it's like it's a pretty long video. I'll see you guys next time. I'll definitely release more stuff about the set later. These are just my initial thoughts and what you should expect for set 3.